Hi everybody! This is the dress that we're going to be making. It has a wave stitch on the skirt, and it has a sewn bodice, 3 buttons on the back, and puff sleeves. Most of the dresses that I make on my channel are for beginners or intermediate, but this is more of a intermediate to advanced dress. A lot of the things that I talk about on the video I assume that you already know, or that you can improvise to make it the size that you want. So for the supplies you'll need a size H or a 5mm hook, and you will also need a size F or a 3.75mm hook. You'll need some thread to coordinate with your buttons. You'll need some pins to mark where you want your buttons to go. You'll need a yarn needle so you can weave your ends in at the ends of your rows. You will need 2 coordinating yarns, a nice soft yarn. I like acrylic because it washes up so well. And as always, I use the Caron Simply Soft, which is for sale at Joann's. And the care of this dress is to wash it in gentle cycle and cold water, and 15 minutes in the dryer with a fabric softener. And after the 15 minutes, you can lay it flat to dry. And that's just to soften up the yarn before you lay it flat, because you don't want it to shrink by drying it the whole time. So I hope you come along and enjoy making this dress with me. Alright, for the skirt of this dress, we will be working it flat, almost like a blanket, where we will turn it at each end. We won't be working it in rounds like the other dresses that I've made. So for your skirt, first take 135 stitches. In the 4th chain from the hook, you will take a double crochet and then 3 double crochets. So you have 1 double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook, and then 3 more double crochets. Now the stitch that we will be doing is called a wavy stitch, and it's just a series of decreases and increases. So our first is going to be a decrease, and we will do it twice, and I'll show you how to do that. So you start like you're doing a normal double crochet, and you only pull through 2. You keep 2 of your loops on the hook, then you will bring up a yarn over, go through your next stitch, pull through 2 so that you have 3 loops on the hook, and then you will pull through all 3. So what we've essentially done is we've made 2 double crochets into 1, and we're going to do that again. So yarn over, start a normal double crochet, pull through 2, now take another double crochet, pull through 2 so that you have 3 loops on your hook, then pull through all 3, and then you've made 2 double crochets into 1. So take 3 more double crochets into the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3. Now we will be taking our increases, because we just took our decreases over here. So go into your next stitch, and we will be taking 2 double crochets into that 1 stitch. And that's your first increase right there. Go into your very next stitch and take another increase, 2 double crochets into the same stitch. So here we have our first kind of wave pattern is kind of appearing, where you have, if you ever get lost, just you need to read your work that you've done. You can look at it and say, this is where I am. I've done 2 decreases, I've done 3 regular double crochet, I've done 2 increases, and so then you would know you'd go right back to doing 3 double crochet. 1, 2, and 3. And I want you to continue this all the way to the end of the work,
And once you get to the end, I will explain how to turn it. Okay, so we've come to the end here, and you should have, after you've done your 3 double crochets, you should have 1 stitch left. And I think I miscounted on my foundation chain, so I have 1 extra chain left. So I'm just going to pull it up tight into a knot and get rid of that extra chain. So little mistakes are easy to fix. So in your very last chain, take an increase, so 2 double crochets into the last stitch, into the last chain, and then chain 3, 1, 2, 3, turn your work and put a double crochet into the very first stitch on your work. So after you do that first double crochet, you're going to take 3 more double crochets. 1, 2, 3. One into each of the next stitches. So you've come to your decreases that you made on your previous row. You can tell you've made 4 stitches into 2, and so we're going to take decreases right on top of them. So we will need 4 stitches to turn into 2 again. So you're going to start with the double crochet on your right hand side of your first decrease, and these are the 2 stitches that you will make into 1 for your decrease. And your second decrease, you will take the decrease plus the double crochet to the left of it. And let me show you how that will be worked. So you pull through 2, go into your next stitch, pull through 2, so you have 3 loops on your hook, and there's your first decrease. Take another decrease, and then pull through all 3, and there you have your 2 decreases on top of your decreases from your previous row. Do 3 double crochets, and here are the increases from your previous row, right here. And we have taken our 3rd double crochet on the right hand side of this previous row's increase. You can see that. So we are going to be taking our increase in the middle stitches of your previous increase. So you have your V's like this of your increases, and you're going to be taking them on this stitch and this stitch of your increases. And I'll show you that. So here's your first increase, 1, 2 into the same stitch. Your second increase, 1, 2 into the same stitch. So you have 2 increases on top of 2 increases right there. And then you take 3 double crochets, and then if you get lost, you can just look back at your work. You can read your work and see where you're at, and know that if you've done what I say in my head is I go 1, 2, 3, increase, increase, 1, 2, 3, decrease, decrease, and that way I can keep it straight in my head where I'm going, and go all the way to the end, and then we'll come back. So the next step is to change color, and you can decide if you want to do this after every 2 or 3 or 4 rows, but I like the look after every 2 rows. And so I cut my other yarn, and I put my hook in so that I would know how tight to pull the knot, and I just pulled the knot around the hook. And then that counts as your first chain. 1, 2, 3. So a total of 3 chains right here on the end, just like you did on the other side. And remember, you're taking your increase here on the very edge. and then take your very first double crochet into the first stitch next to the hook. But the only difference is when on the rows where you're changing colors, you're only going to go into the first loop of the top of the double crochet like this. Usually you would go through both like that. So just go through the front loop and take your double crochet. So that's 1, go through the front loop, 2, and 3, go through the front loop, and here's your decreases from the previous row. So just like the other row, you're going to take the stitch to the right of your decrease and your decreased stitch and make those into one. So if you want to just rewind this portion of the video so that you can remember how to change your colors, you're just going to be repeating this over and over until you get to the length that you like. Just remember that on the rows that you're changing color, only go through the front part of your double crochet. See, this is both parts, and then this side will be the right side of your dress. The part that has this little ridge sticking up will be the right side that will face out. So just switch colors on and off until you get the skirt as long as you like. Alright, so this is the finished portion of the skirt. As you can see, I just made it as long as I chose it to be for the size of child I'm doing. And this is the front of the skirt, because you can see the little ridges hanging out. And there were lots of edges, yarn pieces hanging out on the sides wherever I changed color. So I just took my yarn needle and I wove them in on the back side. I just wove them in and then cut off the ends very close, and you can't even see them. So now I'm going to show you how to sew the skirt part together. You take your skirt with right sides together. That means the ridges will be on the inside. And just line it up exactly. And then take your yarn needle, and then you can just do a whip stitch. You can leave a little end here and tie it in a granny knot and then weave this end in. Just do a whip stitch all the way down this side. And then when you're done, weave the ends in on this side, and then turn it right side out. Okay, for the bodice of this dress, you're going to start with a chain 85, and you're going to take 6 rows of single crochet. And I will show you how to make your straight edges, how to turn your work. You will chain 1, skip the first chain from the hook and go into the next chain and continue on with your single crochets. Very easy way to make nice straight edges. So you chain 1, skip the first stitch, and then go on with your single crochets. And now I'm going to show you how to measure for your armholes. What you do is you lay it flat and mark the middle. You can fold it in half and mark the middle with a pin. Then you'll fold it in half again and mark the 2 side middles with a pin. And let me show you what that looks like on the pattern. This is where we are. This is what we've just done, is this waistband part. This will be your middle pin right here that you've marked the middle front. And then these armholes is where you've marked your sides, and it's divided into fourths. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave a 1-inch gap for your armholes. And depending on the size of your stitches, it could be 3 or 4 or 5 stitches. My stitches, 1 inch equals about 4. So I'm going to skip the right two of the stitches on the right of my pin and 2 of the stitches on the left of my pin, and that's going to be my armhole that I'm going to leave open. So for my 7th row, I'm going to continue on, and I'm going to stop when I come to this point, 2 stitches before my pin. Okay, so I've crocheted my 7th row up to where I determined my gap was going to be, and I stopped right before there. And this is where you're going to turn your work, so you will chain 1, turn your work, skip the first chain from your hook, and go into the next one, and then continue on with your single crochets. And so you're going to be making approximately 14 of these smaller rows, and you'll just keep turning when you come to this end. And then this is the part of the dress that we will be making, is right here. And this is where we will stop before we make this little tab for the shoulder. Alright, so this is what the dress looks like right now. And this is the back part of the bodice that will make the back right side of the bodice. And I'm going to show you how to turn it. So on the last portion of the video, I told you that we were going to be taking 14 rows right here, but it actually ended up being 16. And the 16th row you're not going to complete. You're going to leave out 5 stitches at the end, and then you're going to turn it, but you're not going to take your chain 1 because you don't want to make this edge straight. You want to make it so it's going in at an angle for a nice, this is where the back neckline is going to come up. So just turn it with no chain 1, skip a stitch, and go into the next. And see, we've skipped these 5 right here. And so what you're going to do is take every row like this for about 8 rows. Let's start with 8 rows. And on this side, the back center, right here, will continue to be straight. So keep making this side straight. And then this, it will gradually go up in an increase. So let's start with 8 rows like that of single crochet. That looks like so far. I did 8 rows and it didn't look like tall enough to me, so I ended up doing 10. And just by leaving out the chain 1 on this edge, that's what it looks like. So I did 10 rows of that. And so a little bit about how I made these things. What I did is I just held it up to a dress that I had previously made that fit really nice. You can see I'm just kind of using the... So if you have a dress that fits your child really nice, just hold it up and see how it's fitting. So that's what I do to make it kind of fit good. So what you're going to do now is you're going to take the other side and do the exact same thing on this edge over here. You're going to be making this piece, but in reverse. So you can kind of imagine waistband's going to come around like this. And so I'll put it together if you have trouble visualizing it. Wrap it around. And so you will be taking your neckline right here on this piece. And when you start doing this piece, make sure that you're sewing it, crocheting it in the same direction as this piece, so that you won't have a line of different crochet right here. So instead of starting at this edge, I'm going to be starting right here where my pin is, well, 2 to the left of it. I'm going to be starting right there and working from this direction, because if I started on the opposite side, I'll have a line that'll look different than on this side, because this is one solid piece of crochet. And then we will come back after you do the same thing on this side, but in reverse, so that it matches up with the neckline on here. After you've made your second half of the back bodice piece, just the same as you did this side, then we're ready to start the main piece of the bodice, which is this part right here. As I said before, we're going to skip 4 stitches, or however many stitches you need to skip for it to be about an inch. So So count in 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and on your fifth one, tie a little granny knot, leave in your ends, and then do single crochet until you come to this side, and skip 4 stitches here, and make straight edges all the way up. And let's start with 14 rows this time and see how far we go up. So again, we'll be doing this. So make straight edges, doing single crochet right here, and make sure you're starting on the front side so that your stitches were going the same way as this, so that you won't have a difference in your stitches. So start right here, and let's start with 14 rows and go. This is what the bodice looks like so far, and I've taken 14 straight rows right here, straight across, and I started right here. If you don't want to count, or you want an easy way to remember where you are, the front and the back should match. So if you have more or less rows than that, it's okay. Just make sure that this part of the back bodice matches the front bodice. The next thing you do is you fold this piece in half, or you can measure with the ruler, but you need to find the exact center. And I marked mine with a pin. And just like we did on this part of the bodice, we left 5 stitches right here for the back neckline. So adding the back neckline together, you have 10. So we're going to leave 10 stitches open for the front, where we're going to start the front. So count 5 stitches to your right, and then that's where you will stop on your 15th row. This is your 15th row right here, or according to however you've matched it, that's fine. But do one more row and then stop it when you come 5 stitches to the right of your pin. And then just like you did the back neckline, you're not going to be taking a chain 1 when you're turning, so that when you turn it will go in like this, and then that's what we will be doing right here. So every time you turn right here, don't chain 1 and then skip a stitch and go into the very next stitch and continue on with your single crochet. And your straight edges will be right here. So, and then we will take about, let's start with 10 for now, of your decreasing row on this side and straight row on this side, and then we'll come back. After I finished this side, I counted 10 and I took a granny knot right here, and I started working from this direction going this way, and I did this side just the same as this side. So the next step I started working on was the sleeves, and I took a chain 55 to start. Now this sleeve, I would take a chain 55 whether you're making it for a small child or a large child, because it's going to be a puffed sleeve, so we're going to have gathers in it. So if you're making it for a larger child, you would just have less gathers, and if you're making it for a smaller child, you could gather it more. So chain 55 and take 7 rows of single crochet. And on this side from the right, skip the first stitches on the 8th row, the first 6 stitches, and start in your 7th stitch, making single crochets. And then when you get to the end, you will just do the same way that we did our neckline. You're going to be starting to take decreases on the edge. So that means on the side you will, when you get to the end, you will not take a single crochet and you will skip the first stitch, and then that makes it nicely go in like that, just like your neckline. And then you will take 14 rows doing the decrease on both sides, just like that. Now you'll notice that this sleeve I made is a little different than the pattern I drew up. The pattern I drew up was square. So if you are going strictly by the measurements from the pattern, then this is taking off about 1 inch off of the bottom of each side right here, if you want to use that in figuring your measurements and how big to make your sleeve. But as I was going along, I figured that a round sleeve would fit better in the armhole than a square sleeve. So I do that quite a bit as I go along. I just like to do improvisation and just make things up as I go, and hopefully I'm encouraging you to do the same thing, that you can just kind of make it up as you go along and see what works and see what doesn't, and that's the fun part of crochet. And so if you find something that works better for you, then that's great. So let's go on to our next step. The next step is to put your bodice front and back together and whip stitch the sleeves together. And make sure you have the right sides facing when you do that, so that when you turn it right side out, then the seam will be on the inside. And so this is the sleeve that I'm going to show you how to do, and as you can see it has a cute little puff on it. And I took this method of putting the sleeve on straight from sewing, from cloth material sewing. So what we need to do is we need to gather our sleeve, and I have a long needle, and start right here in the corner, going in and out every other stitch, and try to do it as close to the edge as possible. You know, in every few stitches you can pull it up and then just leave a little end sticking out. So after you have this all stitched up ready for your gather, then we'll come back. After you have your yarn put in here, put right sides together and sew up this little part of the sleeve before we start the gather. Just whip stitch it right here. So before we pull up the gathers, I need you to mark the very center of the sleeve just by folding it in half like this and putting a little pin right there. And then that's how we will know where to match it up with the shoulder seam line. So now we can pull up our gathers. We can just pull from each side like this, and pull it kind of tight to begin with because we're going to let it out as we sew it to the armhole. So we have our right side facing out of the sleeve, the side that we want facing out. And of the dress, we have it inside out. So this is the wrong side of the dress. So what we're going to do is hold your sleeve like this and just kind of put it down into the hole this way. And that's the easiest way to do it. Match up your little pin with your shoulder seam like this, and take your pin out and pin it right here so that it won't move while we're sewing. So this is what it looks like after you've pinned the top and the center sleeve together. And as you can see, the sleeve is still a little bit too big for this armhole. So what you're going to do is you're just going to keep pulling on these gather strings until you have a good fit into the hole. And make sure you line up the center of this armhole to the center of the sleeve. And you can even pin it too if you want to. So as you can see, that fits a little bit better into the sleeve. And then take your needle and just whip stitch the very, very edge like that all the way around. And you're going to need to keep pulling on this gather thread, pulling it up or taking it out as you need to as you're sewing it. So just make sure that you're fitting as you're going. Try to have more gathers at the top than on the side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull more of the gathers up top, because that's what makes your cute little puffed sleeve. So have more of your gathers up top, and then just keep fitting it as you whip stitch it together. And then tie a knot and weave your ends in down here. Alright, so what I've done is I've pulled the gather thread out of here so that you don't have it hanging out anymore. And then I've pinned these sides together so that they'll stay together. And as you'll see, the bodice is right side facing out. And what I've done is on the skirt, I've put a gather thread in the skirt as well. And I've just pulled it up so that it's about the size of the bodice. And I'm trying to make the gathers so that they're even, so there's not more gathers in one spot than another. So with your dress, with the dress part inside out and your bodice right side out, you're going to take and put it inside just like you did for the sleeve. Match up the pin with the back seam and just stick your bodice right inside your dress. So that way when you turn it right side out, the both right sides will be facing out. So try to get your gathers and your bodice to match by pulling your gathers more or letting them out as you need to, And just try not to have more gathers in one spot than another. Try to make them kind of even. And if you need to, you can mark the middle front with a pin, but I don't think it's necessary as long as you get it mostly right. So start sewing right here, just a whip stitch, just the way you did with the sleeve. Go all the way around, and then tie the end that you left out here, tie it in a knot, and then weave your ends in with a needle. So after you've sewn the top to the bottom of your dress, the next step is we're going to be making a little edging for the neckline. So on the back left hand side of your bodice, just tie a little knot right here. And I switched to a smaller hook because I like the smaller look to the neckline so it's not so bulky. This is an F hook, or 3.7 millimeter, 3.75 millimeter, and I was using an H, or a 5 millimeter. So just switch to a smaller hook if you want to, and then switch to your different color. Do a knot right here, and then on this first corner stitch, take 2 single crochets just so you can round the corner a little better. A single crochet in every stitch, and then in the corners I'm going to have you take 1 double crochet, and it just makes it so that the neckline is more circular than square. And so I'm going to show you how to do that on this side. And I did it right here, and you can see it makes it a more circle shape. And so right here on the other square side of the neckline, I've come to the corner, and I'm going to take a double crochet. And then I'm going to go right back to single crochet. And then just take 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around, taking a double crochet in the corners on the back of the neckline as well, and then come to this point, and then we'll come back. Alright, this is the back of the bodice, the back right hand side, and as you can see I've taken 1 double crochet in the corner, and then I'm taking 2 single crochets as I round the corner, just so that the chains don't bunch up. It helps the corner to lay a little bit flatter if you take 2 single crochets right in that corner stitch. And then as you've come to the bottom, you're going to want to close this gap up as much as you can. So just take 1 single crochet in the bottom, oops, and then go right over to the left hand side and take your next stitch over there, and just pull it up as tight as you can as you're going. You don't want this part to be loose, you want it to be closed up. So what I've done on this side of the bodice is I've marked where I want my little button loops to go, and these turned out to be about 1 1/3 inches apart. You can make 2 buttons or 1 buttonhole, or however you want to do it, but just try to make it evenly spaced. So let me show you how to make the little button loop. So you're taking your single crochets all the way up until you get to your pin. And then chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then just go into the very next stitch and continue. And as you can see, it makes a small hole right there. That'll be perfect for a button loop. So do the same thing all the way up into the, just do a button loop here and a button loop here, and when you come to here, take your last stitch on this side. You don't need to make 2 because we've already taken our 2 right there, our 2 single crochets. So tie off right here after you've done your button loop, tie it in a granny knot, and then weave these ends in with your needle. Alright, to sew on your buttons, I've already done 2, and I'm using a slightly contrasting button just so it doesn't blend in. I like to show the cute little buttons on the back. So place your button where it needs to go, just right across from your loop, and I'm putting it right on the edge. Come in through the back and leave about half of your thread hanging out, and that way you can tie a knot with it when you're done. And if you want to use 2 or 3 lengths of yarn so it doesn't come out, then that's a good idea too. And then when you're done, tie 2 square knots into the back and then weave the ends in, and then you're done with your buttons. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to be taking a chain of single crochet right on top of the waistline, right where we've sewn these stitches. I want to cover them up, and this will make a cute little waistline. So I've tied a little knot right here, and I've pulled the back end inside, and I'll just weave that in. So right where your knot is, put your hook right underneath it and pull up a loop. And then take a chain 1, and that will be your first single crochet. And then right underneath your stitches where you sewed your skirt to your bodice, you're going to be going through, pulling up, and then taking a single crochet. And as you can see, that makes a cute little chain right over the waistline. So I'll show you one more time. There's my stitch that I took to sew the top to the bottom. I'm going to go right underneath it. I'm going to pull through a loop, and then I'm going to take a single crochet, and I'm kind of folding the dress in half like that. It just makes it easier. So I'm going to find my next stitch that I took to sew the dress together. I'm going to go underneath it. And as you can see, I'm taking up quite a bit of space with my hook. I'm making these chains quite long. See, and you can see I'm making this little chain that covers the waistline. I'll show you one more time. Here's my stitch. Now don't go into where you've already gone into. Go into the next stitch and come up out of the next stitch. Pull up a loop. And you can skip this part if you don't want to put a little waistline in. I just like the way it looks. Okay, so do that all the way around until you've come to here, and then we'll come back. So you've come all the way around making your waistband, and this first stitch that you took, go underneath it and pull through a slip stitch, and it's going to be kind of tight. So just pull a slip stitch through, and then pull your end through, and then take and go through right underneath the stitch you just took and pull this end through. And as you can recall, you did have this end still there, so that makes a perfect thing to tie a knot to. I love to leave my ends out if I know I'm coming back to the same spot. And square knots are good, right over left, left over right, and then you can just take and weave these ends in, and then you have your waistband done. So this is the finished dress, and I chose to do a store-bought flower instead of a crocheted flower, and I just bought this at Joann's. You could get it at Michael's or any craft store, and it even comes with a little pin on the back, so you can just pin it right on, and you can take it off for washing. It doubles as a hair clip too. If you would like to do a crocheted flower, I have crocheted flowers on my YouTube channel under How to Crochet a Flower. So check it out if you'd like to do one of my cute crocheted flowers. And I hope you liked watching this video. And if it was useful at all to you, I hope you will go back to the beginning and watch the advertisement all the way through. The revenue really helps my family. Thanks, and have a great day.